Hello viewers, well I wanted to talk a little bit about the recent F1 announcement. In the UK, F1 is moving to a pay-per-view TV scheme, and I know it's been certainly something that's angered the fans. It's very disappointing for fans. People have asked my thoughts on the situation, and I've noticed on qualifying this morning at Hungary, thoughts haven't been given from the presenters. They've kept their mouths shut, whereas there was a quote from Martin Brundle about a job centre queue. It certainly seems like Martin and DC possibly won't be going over to Sky. I think it's going to be a change for a lot of fans, a change in the sport and the way it's been covered. I think F1 has always been an elitist sport and will always be an elitist sport. That doesn't mean that the fans don't mean a lot to the sport. The fans are what it's been built upon, at least in the UK, and in a way they're kind of isolating themselves and saying, well, we don't need the fans, we just need the people with the money. And that's not really what Formula One necessarily was built upon. That's not the passion behind Formula One. I hope that they can find some kind of sort of equal ground for it, but certainly for viewers in the UK it's going to be a step backwards. Spending £300 or £400 a year just to watch your races is a lot of money for the average person, and there's no doubt there will be a lower viewership. But what they'll do is they'll add up the people that view the race in the afternoon on Sky and add that next to the people who view the highlights and say, well, more people watched it overall. So it's going to be a numbers game for the sponsors at the end of the day. Not the fact that if you subtracted the people that watched it on Sky in the afternoon from the people who watched the highlights, because actually F1 fans tend to watch the initial coverage and watch the highlights, because we're always used to seeing the highlights because that's where they show the interviews with the drivers sometimes that they couldn't get earlier in the afternoon. So if you subtracted that away, you would end up with less viewers. But you could do that already to an extent, but I just think at the moment they'll play with the numbers game and make it certainly appear to be a better deal. There's a lot of people lobbying that the BBC should cut salaries. There's a lot that the BBC and other TV companies do that pay extraordinary salaries to people in the business. You would be surprised at the huge salaries that are paid to a lot of people in TV. You could cut probably 10 people from the company and that would have paid for the actual F1 coverage, but you don't know what all the presenters are being paid. You know, they're all paid an extraordinary amount of money, and it's something that's not going to change. And if Sky have got that money and they can afford the sport, then so be it. It's something we'll all eventually begrudgingly get used to. And if you're travelling about and you can't have Sky, then it's just one of those things that's too bad. So for the sport, I think it's a crossroads really of where they're going. And I think when you look at the furore caused by the Bahrain Grand Prix earlier this year, you can see how the rich can go to it but the general public can't. It is just a sport of the rich, and I think that's what F1 at its core to an extent has always been. But horse racing is a good example. You have your rich people on one side and your general public on the other, and unfortunately Formula One is just kind of cutting the other people on the other side out entirely. There's no real thought given to it. You could get quite cynical as to where that money is spent and where it goes, but suffice to say there is enough money in Formula One right now. If the smaller teams are arguing that they need more money, they should really be looking at the share of the pot that already exists, and that's a multi-billion pound pot. So something to consider there. Lots. I'd like to get your feedback on how you feel about the deal. I think the biggest issue with Sky at the moment for me is that when you buy Sky Sports, you have to buy all the football and you have to buy all the golf, and I'm just not going to watch all that stuff. So I mean, I watch motor racing all the time. I have Eurosport for free. I have Motor TV for free. So why would I want to pay for all that football and golf I'm not going to watch? It does feel like you're kind of subsidising Sky's other schemes, and I think that's one thing that if there was just F1 coverage, or if F1 was even on Sky One, I don't think a lot of us would mind. We would happily pay for Sky One just to watch the sport, because there are other TV shows and etc. that we watch. But that's some brief opinions and thoughts for you guys, and I'll be making loads more coverage on the F1 2011 game coming soon, plus loads of other stuff as well. But that's it for now, viewers. Give me your feedback, follow me on Twitter, and more soon.